The video that changed everything was only 12 seconds long. Filmed on a cracked phone screen in the Zaatari refugee camp in Jordan, it showed a small boy, maybe 8 years old, kicking a deflated football against a concrete wall. He wore a tattered Real Madrid jersey with Ronaldo's name barely visible on the back, and as he practiced his shots, he whispered the same phrase over and over in Arabic. "One day, Cristiano. One day I will meet you and tell you my story." The video was uploaded to TikTok by a humanitarian worker visiting the camp. And like so many refugee stories, it should have disappeared into the endless scroll of social media content. But something about this particular boy captured people's attention. Maybe it was his determination, practicing football in the middle of a refugee camp. Maybe it was the hope in his voice as he spoke to his hero. Or maybe it was the heartbreaking innocence of a child who still believed in dreams despite losing everything. Within 48 hours, the video had been shared over 2 million times. The hashtag #FindCristianosBoy began trending globally as users tried to identify the child and get the video to Cristiano himself. Refugee advocacy organizations picked up the story, and major news outlets began reporting on the mysterious boy who had captured the internet's heart. But what nobody knew was that Cristiano had already seen the video. In fact, he had been watching it obsessively since it first appeared on his feed, replaying those 12 seconds dozens of times, studying every detail of the boy's face, every word he spoke in Arabic. Something about this child had reached him in a way that millions of other fan videos never had. The boy's name was Youssef, and his story was both typical and extraordinary among the millions of refugees displaced by war. His family had fled Syria when he was just 5 years old, leaving behind their home in Aleppo after it was destroyed in bombing raids. They had been living in Zaatari for 3 years, surviving on UN rations and the occasional odd job that Youssef's father could find outside the camp. What made Youssef's story unique wasn't his suffering. Tragically, that was common among refugee children. What made him special was his unwavering belief that football could be his ticket to a better life, and his absolute conviction that someday he would meet Cristiano Ronaldo and tell him his story in perfect Arabic. The problem was that Youssef spoke no Portuguese, no Spanish, and very little English. He had been teaching himself Arabic poetry and practicing formal Arabic speech because he believed that if he ever met his hero, he wanted to honor him by speaking in the most beautiful language he knew. Youssef had convinced himself that Cristiano would be more impressed by eloquent Arabic than broken English, and he spent hours each day practicing speeches he hoped to someday deliver to his idol. When Cristiano learned this detail through the humanitarian worker who had posted the original video, something clicked. Here was a child who was preparing to honor him in a language Cristiano didn't speak, dreaming of a conversation that could never happen because of the language barrier. Most celebrities might have sent a signed jersey or arranged a video call with translators. But Cristiano made a decision that shocked everyone around him. He was going to learn Arabic so he could speak to Youssef in his own language. The decision seemed impossible to those who knew Cristiano's demanding schedule. Between training with Al Nassr, travel for international matches, business commitments, and family obligations, he barely had free time to sleep, let alone learn one of the world's most challenging languages. But Cristiano had made up his mind, and when Cristiano sets a goal, obstacles become irrelevant. He hired not one but 3 Arabic tutors. A Palestinian professor from Harvard who specialized in classical Arabic, a Syrian refugee who could teach him the specific dialect spoken in Aleppo, and a Jordanian linguist who understood the particular Arabic used in refugee camps. His schedule was restructured to include 2 hours of Arabic study every day, split between morning lessons before training and evening sessions after dinner. What started as a mission to communicate with one refugee boy quickly became something much deeper. As Cristiano learned Arabic, he began to understand not just the language, but the culture, history, and poetry that Youssef treasured. He discovered the works of Mahmoud Darwish, the Palestinian poet, whose verses about exile and hope resonated powerfully with his own journey from a poor boy in Madeira to global superstar. He studied the Arabic names for football terms, practiced pronunciation until his tutors were amazed by his progress, and began to understand why Yusuf considered Arabic the most beautiful language for expressing deep emotions. But Cristiano's Arabic studies revealed something that broke his heart. The formal, classical Arabic that Yusuf was learning was the language of someone trying to impress authority figures, to show respect and deference. It was the Arabic of a child who believed he needed to prove his worth to earn attention from someone powerful. Cristiano realized that Yusuf wasn't just learning beautiful language. He was learning the language of someone who felt small and powerless. This revelation changed everything about Cristiano's approach. He began learning not just formal Arabic, but the casual, warm, familial Arabic that an older brother might use with a younger sibling. He wanted to speak to Yusuf, not as a celebrity receiving homage from a fan, but as one human being connecting with another. His tutors were amazed by his dedication and emotional investment in mastering not just vocabulary and grammar, but the subtle emotional nuances that would allow him to communicate genuine warmth and equality. After 3 months of intensive study, Cristiano felt ready. But instead of arranging a typical celebrity visit to the refugee camp with media coverage and fanfare, he planned something completely different. Working with refugee advocacy organizations and the Jordanian government, he arranged to visit Zaatari unofficially, with minimal security and no media presence. He wanted to meet Yusuf as quietly and naturally as possible, to have a real conversation without cameras or crowds. The morning of the visit, Cristiano was more nervous than before any Champions League final. He had memorized not just greetings and pleasantries, but poems, stories, and questions that would allow him to connect with Yusuf on the level the boy deserved. He had prepared responses to the speech he knew Yusuf had been practicing, and he had even learned traditional Arabic blessings to honor the boy's family. When Cristiano arrived at the refugee camp, he was dressed simply in jeans and a plain t-shirt, looking more like a humanitarian worker than a global superstar. Yusuf was practicing football at his usual spot against the concrete wall, completely unaware that his hero was walking toward him. The moment their eyes met, Yusuf dropped his ball and froze, unable to believe what he was seeing. But instead of the formal Arabic speech he had prepared, all he could manage was a whispered, "Cristiano?" Cristiano knelt down to Yusuf's level and spoke his first words in Arabic. "Peace be upon you, my brother. I have come to hear your story and to tell you mine." The boy's eyes filled with tears as he realized that his hero was speaking to him in his own language, with pronunciation that, while not perfect, was clearly the result of serious study and genuine effort. What followed was a conversation that would change both of their lives forever. For over an hour, Cristiano and Yusuf sat together in the camp, speaking in Arabic about football, family, dreams, and loss. Cristiano told Yusuf about his own childhood poverty, about nights when his family didn't have enough food, about the times he almost quit football because it seemed impossible. But more importantly, he listened as Yusuf shared his memories of Syria, his dreams of becoming a professional player, and his fears that the world had forgotten about refugees like him. The conversation was conducted entirely in Arabic, with Cristiano occasionally asking for help with vocabulary, but never breaking the flow of their connection. Yusuf later said it was the first time since leaving Syria that an adult had spoken to him in Arabic, not as a refugee to be pitied, but as a person whose thoughts and dreams mattered. Other children in the camp gradually gathered around them, drawn by the sight of Cristiano Ronaldo sitting on the ground having an animated conversation in Arabic with one of their friends. Instead of asking them to leave, Cristiano began speaking with all of them, practicing his Arabic while learning their stories and sharing his own experiences of overcoming adversity. By the end of the visit, Cristiano had promised not just to help Yusuf pursue his football dreams, but to establish a permanent Arabic language football academy in the camp where refugee children could train while maintaining their cultural identity and linguistic heritage. But the most powerful moment came as Cristiano was preparing to leave. Yusuf approached him with a small piece of paper covered in Arabic writing, the formal speech he had been preparing for 3 years. Instead of reciting it, he handed it to Cristiano and said in Arabic, "I don't need this anymore. You spoke to me like family. so I will speak to you like family too. Cristiano read the speech later that evening and wept. It was a beautiful formal declaration of gratitude and respect, written in classical Arabic that had taken Youssef years to perfect. But more than that, it was evidence of a child who had believed he needed to transform himself into someone worthy of attention, only to discover that he had always been worthy exactly as he was. The impact of Cristiano's decision to learn Arabic extended far beyond his relationship with Yusuf. Word of his language studies spread throughout the Arabic-speaking world, inspiring millions of fans who felt seen and respected by his effort to communicate with them in their native language. Arabic teachers around the world reported increased enrollment from students inspired by Cristiano's example. More importantly, Cristiano's Arabic studies became a model for other celebrities and public figures working with refugee communities. The idea that meaningful help required cultural understanding and linguistic effort, rather than just financial donations, began to influence how humanitarian work was conducted by high-profile advocates. Youssef's story had an equally transformative ending. The football academy that Cristiano established in Zaatari became a model for refugee sports programs worldwide, emphasizing not just athletic development, but cultural preservation and linguistic pride. Youssef himself became the academy's first graduate to receive a full scholarship to a European football academy, where he continues to train while studying both Arabic literature and international relations. Today, Cristiano continues to study Arabic, not just to maintain his connection with Youssef, but because the language has opened up new understanding of Middle Eastern culture, poetry, and philosophy. He regularly posts messages in Arabic to his social media accounts, always with the hashtag #YoussefTaughtMe, crediting the refugee boy who inspired him to become a student once again. The video that started it all, 12 seconds of a boy practicing football while speaking to his hero in Arabic, has been viewed over 100 million times. But more importantly, it sparked a relationship that proved language barriers are only as strong as our willingness to cross them, and that sometimes the most powerful response to a child's dream is not to grant it, but to honor it by meeting them exactly where they are. When people ask Cristiano why he learned Arabic for a refugee boy, his answer is always the same. Youssef was willing to spend years learning beautiful language to honor me. The least I could do was learn his language to honor him. The truth finally revealed is that Cristiano didn't just learn Arabic to communicate with one child. He learned it to prove that when someone believes in you enough to prepare for years just to speak with you properly, your response should be to meet their effort with equal dedication and respect.